Disney's total revenue in 2024 was $91.4 billion. That's 2.5 times what Netflix earns in a year. And yet, most people, if you ask them what Disney actually is, would say, it's a movie studio. That answer is incomplete in a way that matters. Here's the puzzle. In 2024, Disney's film and television operations generated $41 billion in revenue. Its parks and hotels generated $34 billion. Sports generated nearly $18 billion. Those numbers don't belong to a movie studio. They belong to something with a fundamentally different architecture. Most media companies make money by making content and selling access to it. Disney does that too. But Disney also owns the platform you stream it on, the theme park you visit because of it, and the merchandise your kids demand as a result. Each is a separate revenue stream. They all run on the same fuel. That structure, owning content, distribution, experience, and merchandise all at once, is called vertical integration. It's not a new idea. What makes Disney unusual is what it enables in practice, because this isn't just about efficiency. Disney has built a system that profits from Hollywood's disruption of itself, even from its own losses in one area. To understand how, you need to see what each part of the machine actually does. Disney runs three business segments: entertainment, studios, streaming, TV networks; sports, primarily ESPN; and experiences, the theme parks, cruise ships, hotels. Each earns billions, but they are not equal. In 2023, Disney's experiences segment generated $9 billion in operating profit. That one segment accounted for roughly 70% of Disney's total profitability that year. Not the films, not the streaming platform, the parks, the rides, the queues, the $14 churros. This surprises people. We associate Disney with movies, but the film business is expensive and unpredictable. A film can lose $100 million and nobody sees it coming. The parks don't work like that. People plan holidays around them months in advance, save specifically for the trip, and spend heavily when they arrive. Here's a number to make that concrete. In fiscal 2024, Disney's parks generated $9.3 billion in operating income. In the same year, the entire American cinema industry, every ticket sold in every multiplex in the country, collected about $8.7 billion in total box office revenue. Not profit, revenue. Disney's parks generated more in profit than American cinema earns in total. The parks are carrying the company, but they're full of people who came because of stories Disney told. The rides run on the films. The characters on the merchandise are from the movies. Disney doesn't have a parks business and a films business. It has one business that converts stories into physical spending. Here's how the mechanism actually works. Take a Star Wars fan. They see a film in cinemas and buy a ticket. Disney receives roughly half the box office gross from the theater. That's transaction one. A few months later, the same film appears on Disney Plus. The same fan pays a monthly subscription. Disney keeps all of it. No cinema taking a cut, no cable operator skimming a margin. The same story, a second revenue event, on infrastructure Disney owns outright. Transaction 2. The fan's child wants the lightsaber, the lunchbox, the Lego set. Disney licenses its characters to manufacturers and charges a royalty on every product sold. In 2024, Disney's licensed merchandise generated $63 billion in global retail sales. That's nearly twice what its nearest licensing competitor managed, and more than Netflix earns in total revenue across an entire year. Transaction 3. The following summer, the family books a trip to Walt Disney World. The Galaxy's Edge area is on the itinerary. They spend on accommodation, food, park tickets, and merchandise available only inside the park. Every dollar goes to Disney. The experience was engineered around the same intellectual property that started the sequence in a cinema 12 months earlier. Transaction 4. One story, 4 separate revenue events, each running a different business model: theatrical licensing, subscription streaming, intellectual property royalties, and hospitality. Disney participates in all 4 simultaneously, keeping margin at every stage. That is not a diversified conglomerate. That is a closed loop. The machine had to be purchased. Most of the intellectual property that now drives the parks, the merchandise, and the streaming platform was not invented by Disney. it was acquired. Between 2006 and 2019, Bob Iger, Disney's CEO for that period, oversaw 4 deals that changed what kind of company Disney was. In 2006, Disney paid $7.4 billion for Pixar. It looked like an expensive fix for a flagging animation division. In practice, it delivered a pipeline of characters: Woody, Nemo, Elsa, each of which became a franchise, a theme park land, and a merchandise category. In 2009, $4 billion for Marvel Entertainment. In 2012, $4.05 billion for Lucasfilm, Star Wars, Indiana Jones. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has since generated $32.4 billion at the global box office. Disney's own shareholder materials put the combined value from those 2 acquisitions, $8 billion spent, at roughly $25 billion generated. Then, in 2019, $71.3 billion for the entertainment assets of 21st Century Fox, a second major film studio, the FX cable network, National Geographic, and crucially, a larger ownership stake in Hulu, bought at the exact moment Disney was preparing to launch its own streaming service. Each deal followed the same logic. Disney identified a category it didn't yet dominate and bought its way to control. It wasn't building a library. It was installing toll booths at every point where a story could be converted into money. On November 12, 2019, Disney launched its streaming service at $6.99 a month. 10 million people signed up on day one. Disney's own projections had estimated 60 to 90 million subscribers by fiscal 2024. The actual figure was 122.7 million, roughly 35% ahead of target. Here's the part that gets less attention. Between 2019 and 2024, Disney Plus accumulated more than $10 billion in cumulative operating losses. $10 billion is roughly what it costs to build a brand new theme park. Disney spent the equivalent of an entire park acquiring its streaming subscriber base. Why do that deliberately? Because Disney wasn't building a product. It was building a distribution channel it would own outright, so it would never again share margin with a cinema, a cable operator, or a satellite provider. The losses were the price of the infrastructure. During those 5 years, what was keeping Disney solvent? The parks. While streaming bled billions, the experiences segment produced its record operating profits. Disney used its most reliable, physical business to bankroll its most speculative digital bet. The bet paid off. In the quarter ending March 30th, 2024, Disney's combined streaming operations turned profitable for the first time, $47 million in operating income. By the full fiscal year, that figure reached $134 million, compared to a loss of $2.6 billion the year before. The pipe now runs. The margin belongs to Disney. Here is the mechanism that competitor analysis consistently misses. Disney isn't just vertically integrated. It is positioned on both sides of Hollywood's economy simultaneously: content producer and platform operator, the incumbent studio system and the company disrupting studios, the business theatrical cinema needs in the business making theatrical cinema less necessary. Think about what that means when something goes wrong. When a Disney film underperforms at the box office, several did in the post-pandemic period, Disney doesn't simply absorb the loss. It releases the film to Disney Plus earlier than planned, converting a theatrical disappointment into a streaming event that drives subscriptions. The money shifts channels. It does not leave the building. The same logic runs in reverse. When streaming growth slows, Disney leans on parks. When parks face headwinds, it pushes theatrical. Each segment offsets the others because they were all built to draw from the same intellectual property. Bob Iger described this in Disney's February 2025 earnings call. With multiple consumer touchpoints, we continue to generate ongoing, long-term value from our theatrical releases, and we now have more ways to leverage film success than ever before. A film release is a trigger that activates revenue across every segment simultaneously. When Netflix expands, it grows the streaming market, which Disney participates in. When traditional cinema declines, it accelerates the shift to platforms, which Disney owns. In a normal industry, you profit from your own performance. In Disney's architecture, you profit from whichever direction the whole industry moves. There is one category where Disney's architecture is not yet complete: live sports. Sport is the last major entertainment format where audiences pay a significant premium to watch in real time, where advertising rates are dramatically higher than any other content, and where no on-demand substitute exists. Disney owns ESPN, the most commercially valuable sports media brand in America. ESPN is the core of Disney's sports segment, which generated $17.6 billion in revenue in 2024. But for decades, ESPN lived inside cable bundles. Disney collected a share of every cable bill without owning the subscriber relationship. A cable operator always sat in between. On August 21, 2025, Disney launched ESPN as a standalone streaming service at $29.99 a month, 30% more expensive than Netflix's most popular plan. Disney is not competing with entertainment streaming. It is replacing cable sports directly and keeping the entire subscriber margin itself. Getting there required maneuvering. A proposed joint sports streaming venture called Venu, built with Fox and Warner Bros. Discovery, was canceled in January 2025 before it ever launched. Instead, Disney merged Hulu's live television service with Fubo TV, taking a 70% stake. A distribution vehicle Disney controls, not shares. The pattern is the same as always. Disney identifies a segment where it doesn't own the distribution, then builds or acquires its way to control. Sports is the last piece. When ESPN's direct subscriber base matures, the loop closes. Zoom out and the shape of the thing is visible. $91.4 billion a year from 3 segments that reinforce each other. Stories generate park visits. Park visits generate merchandise spending. Merchandise strengthens the brand. Brand strength drives streaming subscriptions. Subscriptions fund the next round of stories. Not a diversified portfolio, a closed loop. At the center is intellectual property, not held in the abstract, but operationalized across formats. Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, ESPN. Each generates income simultaneously in film, parks, merchandise, streaming, and live events. None depends on the others being healthy. Each one hedges the rest. Disney spent $87 billion on acquisitions between 2006 and 2019. Each purchase looked like a bet on content. In retrospect, they were purchases of revenue architectures, systems through which stories generate money across every format, in perpetuity. The libraries were the pretext. The closed loop was the goal. Nelson Peltz, the activist investor who challenged Disney's board and lost the shareholder vote in April 2024, argued streaming losses were too large and the balance sheet over-leveraged. His criticisms had merit, but he was measuring the wrong thing. The losses were not mismanagement. They were the deliberate purchase of infrastructure that now belongs entirely to Disney. Disney is not quite a media company. It is the closest thing the entertainment industry has produced to a closed economic system, one that captures value at every point between a story and an audience willing to pay for it. Whether that is a masterpiece of corporate design or the structure that slowly squeezes the life out of Hollywood is, as of now, an open question. The audience is still deciding.